The forest was quiet, but the smoke in the air told a different story. Jace moved carefully through the burned trees, his boots crunching on black ash. In front of him was the broken body of a spaceship, torn in half and still glowing from the crash. Metal pieces were scattered like bones, and the sky above was dark with clouds and fire. He held his scanner in one hand. The screen blinked red. Life detected. Jace stepped over a bent piece of the hull. His eyes scanned every shadow, every corner. There could be survivors or enemies. Then he heard it. A soft breath, a small sound of movement. He raised his blaster and turned quickly toward the noise behind a cracked support beam. Someone was sitting. A girl, not human. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing. Her hair was dark, tangled, and fell across her shoulders like a storm cloud. She had golden eyes that burned with hate, not fear. Her wrists and ankles were chained. But she didn't look weak. She looked angry. Jace didn't lower his weapon. "Don't move," he said sharply. She didn't listen. She stood up slowly. Even with the chains, even with the bruises on her arms, her gaze never left his. She said nothing, but her silence felt like a challenge. Jace frowned. "I'm not here to hurt you." Still, no answer. The rain started falling. Light at first, then harder. Thunder rumbled above them, and the wreckage hissed as water hit the hot metal. Jace took one step closer. That's when she moved. She threw herself at him, fast and wild. Even in chains, she slammed into him, knocking the blaster from his hand. They both fell to the ground, wrestling in the mud. Her hands reached for his throat. Jace grunted, rolled, and pushed her off. He grabbed her arm and pinned her down, breathing hard. "Enough?" She stared up at him, her eyes glowing in the dark. Then she spoke for the first time. "Kill me." Jace blinked, shocked. "What?" "Kill me now," she said. "I won't go back." Jace shook his head. "I'm not taking you back." She didn't believe him. He stood up and picked up his blaster, pointing it at her again. But his hands were shaking now, not with fear, but with confusion. He looked at her, chained and bruised, standing in the ruins of a burning ship, alone and proud. "What the hell am I supposed to do with you?" He whispered. She didn't reply. Lightning flashed, and he saw something on her neck, a small device, blinking red. A tracker. Someone was watching her. Maybe her captors. Maybe something worse. Jace stepped forward and grabbed her chain. She didn't fight this time, just stared at him like he was nothing. Like she'd seen monsters far worse than him. "We need to move," he said. She didn't move, so he pulled her forward. And slowly, she followed, limping, silent, as they walked into the forest, away from the wreckage. Jace kept looking over his shoulder. He knew something was coming. He just didn't know what. Behind them, deep inside the broken ship, a silent message was sent to the sky. "Target found. Begin retrieval." The rain didn't stop. It fell harder as night came, cold and sharp like needles. Jace led the alien girl through the trees, his flashlight shaking in his hand. She didn't speak. Didn't ask where they were going, but she never stopped walking either. Even though she was barefoot and her ankle was bleeding, he found an old bunker in the hillside, left behind by some forgotten war. It was dark inside, but dry. Jace forced the door open with a grunt and pulled her in behind him. She gave him a cold glare, but said nothing, just sat in the corner like a wild animal watching him carefully. Jace tossed her a dry blanket. She didn't touch it. He sighed and sat on the floor across from her, blaster close by. He stared at her through the flickering flashlight beam, the way her eyes glowed gold even in the dark, like twin moons filled with fire. "You going to tell me your name?" he asked after a while. She didn't answer. Her head tilted, her jaw clenched. The silence between them felt heavy, like something was pressing down on the bunker from above. "You attacked me," Jace said. "Tried to steal my weapon. Got anything to say about that?" Still nothing. He stood up slowly and walked closer to her. She tensed, her shoulders tightening like a spring ready to snap. He crouched in front of her and reached out. Not to hurt her, to check her ankle. She flinched, but didn't stop. He touched the bloody skin, felt the heat from infection starting to build. "You're injured," he said. "You won't get far if you try to run again." "I will run," she said, her voice low and sharp, "and if I can't, I will." "Kill you." Jace leaned back, surprised by her words, but more surprised by how calm she sounded. "Why?" He asked. "What did I do?" She didn't answer. Outside, thunder rolled. A tree cracked and fell somewhere in the distance. The sound echoed into the bunker like a giant's footstep. Jace stood and moved toward the entrance, then paused. "You've got a tracker on you," he said. "That means someone is coming." And soon, the girl looked up quickly. Her eyes wide for a second. Just a second, but then her face turned cold again. "I know," she said. "They always come." Jace stared at her, confused. Who's coming for you?" "They call themselves protectors," she said. "But they're hunters. They kill what doesn't obey." Her voice had no fear in it, only rage. Jace stepped closer again, his voice lower. "Then why were you chained in your own ship?" She didn't respond. "Why were you the only survivor?" He asked. Silence. Then suddenly, she moved, not to attack, but to stand. She walked slowly toward him, the chains dragging behind her with a soft metal clink. She stopped just one step away from him, close enough that he could see the dirt on her face, the cracked lips, the fury in her eyes. "I wasn't supposed to survive," she said. "The ship was meant to burn, with me in it." Jace's breath caught in his throat. She looked down, then whispered, "You ruined their plan." The lights flickered again, then died. Darkness filled the bunker. Jace quickly turned on a backup light, a small glow cube. But the moment it lit up, they both heard it a click. Then another. Outside the bunker, footsteps. Jace pulled his blaster and moved toward the entrance. His heart pounded, not just from fear, but from something else. Something he didn't understand yet. Behind him, the alien girl stood still, her eyes glowing brighter than before. "I told you," she whispered. "They always come." The footsteps outside didn't stop. They circled the bunker, slow and steady. Like someone wasn't in a hurry, like they already knew what was inside. Jace stood near the door, blaster ready, his finger hovering over the trigger. The alien girl stayed silent behind him, but her body had changed. She stood straight, her chains tight, her hands balled into fists. Her eyes glowed like stars in a black sky. Jace whispered, "Friend of yours?" She didn't speak, but her answer was clear. She was shaking, not from cold, from memory. Suddenly, a voice came through a hidden speaker outside the bunker wall. It was calm, deep, and spoke in a strange accent. "Return the fugitive to us, human. Step away, and you will not be harmed." Jace didn't move. He looked at the girl. "You going to tell me what they want?" She turned her head slowly. Her voice was low. "They want to erase me, not kill erase, like I never existed." Jace raised an eyebrow. "What did you do? Rob a royal ship? Start a war?" "I told the truth," she said, and then her face went blank again. Another loud bang shook the door. This time, it wasn't a knock. It was a warning. Jace turned to her. "If I open that door, are you going to help me, or let me die?" The girl looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. "If you die," she said, "they will take me. If they take me, they'll take others like me next." "Sounds like you've got a plan," Jace muttered. "Care to share it?" She looked at the wall, then walked over to the far corner of the bunker and dropped to her knees. Jace thought she was hiding until he saw her fingers push into a crack in the floor. A moment later, a panel popped open. "What is that?" he asked. "A way out," she said. More metal footsteps echoed outside, followed by the sound of machines powering up. They weren't just here to talk anymore. She looked back at Jace. "You can leave me here and survive, or follow me and become part of something you don't understand." Jace didn't like either choice, but he already knew his answer. "After everything I've seen," he said, "I'm already part of it." He helped her into the dark tunnel. Beneath the floor, it was narrow and filled with dust, but it stretched far and downward, deeper into the earth. As they crawled, Jace asked, "So what truth did you tell that made your people want you dead?" She was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "That we weren't the first ones, that our empire was built on stolen worlds and stolen lives. The humans weren't weak, but something worse. Worse." Jace said, "That's comforting." "No." She said, "Not worse for us, worse for them. Because humans fight for the wrong things, but they never stop." Jace didn't know whether to be insulted or impressed. At the end of the tunnel, they came to a steel hatch. The girl pressed her hand against it. A scanner read her blood, and the door hissed open into a hidden chamber lined with old tech and maps. Jace stepped inside slowly, looking around. "What is this place?" She looked at the dusty control panels, old chairs, and forgotten monitors. Her voice trembled for the first time. "It used to be home before I was chosen, before I became." A secret Jace turned toward her. "And what are you now?" She met his eyes, the gold burning brighter. "A mistake," she said. "One they need to erase before others like me remember who they are." Then she looked at the blinking screen. On the wall, red dots were moving across a map toward their location. "They found the tunnel," she whispered. Jace raised his blaster again. "Then we make them regret it." The room lights flickered, then died. Only the screen remained glowing red, showing movement 6 dots, maybe more, closing in fast. From the tunnel behind them, Jace checked his blaster, then looked around the hidden chamber. "No weapons, no traps," he muttered. "You sure this place was home? Not a museum?" The alien girl didn't answer. She walked to one of the old panels, wiped off the dust, and pressed a series of buttons with shaky fingers. Nothing happened. Jace frowned. "What are you doing?" "Trying to wake the Guardian," she said, her voice barely a whisper before he could ask what that meant. A loud thud echoed through the tunnel they had crawled through. Dust fell from the ceiling. Another thud. "Closer now. Backup plan." Jace asked, gripping his blaster tighter. She turned to him, and for the first time, she looked uncertain. "There isn't one. We were never supposed to come back here." The air in the chamber grew colder. The girl closed her eyes, stepped forward, and placed both hands on the panel. Her skin began to glow slightly, pulses of blue light moving through her veins like lightning. The screen blinked. Once, twice. Then something woke up. A deep hum filled the chamber, low and ancient, followed by a metallic groan from the wall across the room. Slowly, a round door opened and steam poured out, revealing a figure standing inside. It was not alive, not anymore. A metal giant covered in dust and vines stepped forward with slow, creaking movements. Its eyes lit up white, scanning the room, then locked on the girl. Jace raised his blaster again. "Friend or enemy?" The girl whispered, "It remembers me." The machine took one more step, then kneeled before her, placing its hand on the floor like a knight before a queen. Its voice crackled through old speakers. "Initiator recognized. Command input." Jace blinked, stunned. "Okay, that's new." The girl stood straighter, stronger now. "Defend," she said. The machine stood and turned toward the tunnel, raising its heavy arms. Parts of its body shifted, revealing ancient weapons hidden beneath its armor, blades extended. Energy coils hissed to life. "Targets approaching," it said calmly. Jace looked at her again. "Who are you?" She looked at him, and this time she didn't hide. "I was made to obey. trained to follow. But I chose truth instead, and the truth got you hunted. Jace muttered. The tunnel behind them shook, and then light poured in as something blasted the wall open. Soldiers in dark armor stepped inside, holding shock rifles. Their helmets glowed red, their boots silent as death. The machine didn't wait for orders again. It charged, the air exploded with sound. Metal hitting metal, energy blasts flying everywhere. The giant moved like thunder, slicing through the soldiers with ancient fury. Jace fired too, covering the sides, moving fast and sharp in the middle of it all. The girl stood still, watching her chains broke in the chaos. Burned away by the heat of a nearby blast, she looked at her freed hands, then raised one to ward the battle. A wave of force burst from her fingers, silent, invisible, but powerful. It knocked 3 soldiers off their feet and slammed them into the walls. Jace saw it, shocked. "You have powers." She didn't answer, just stared at her own hand like she didn't fully believe it either. The last of the attackers fell, their bodies twitching in smoke and sparks. The machine stepped back. Damaged but still standing, threat neutralized. It said. Jace looked at the girl again, breathing hard. "You're not just some runaway," he said. "You're something they're scared of." She lowered her hand slowly. "They should be." Then the screen blinked again, showing more red. Dots this time, 10, maybe 20, all moving fast. Jace cursed under his breath. "Round 2 already?" The girl didn't move. "They won't stop until I'm erased." Jace looked at the machine, then at her. "Then we make sure you stay alive for the first time." She gave him something close to a smile. It didn't last, because the lights turned red, and something bigger was coming next. The red light wasn't just an alarm, it was a warning. A deep pulse shook the chamber as something massive moved above them. Jace looked at the ceiling as fine dust rained down from the cracks. The air felt heavy now, like it was holding its breath. Before something terrible arrived, the Guardian machine stood ready, but damaged. Sparks flickered from one of its arms. The girl touched its shoulder gently, as if calming an old friend before the final battle. The machine didn't speak again, didn't need to. It knew its time was nearly over on the screen. The dots were no longer just moving, they were spreading, surrounding the chamber from every direction. Jace's throat tightened. "There. Sealing us in." The girl didn't look afraid. She turned to a nearby wall and began to pull off loose panels. Behind them were dusty tubes and small boxes marked with warning symbols. Jace stepped closer. "Explosives?" "Energy cells." She said, "Old but unstable. We can use them to open a path down, not up, down." Jace asked, "What's down?" "Something forgotten," she said quietly. "Maybe hope, maybe ruin." There was no time to argue. Jace helped her pull the last cell free and wire it to the back wall. The girl worked fast, her hands sure and precise, but her breath was shaky. Her strength was fading, but she kept going. Why didn't they destroy this place already? Jace asked. "They were afraid." She replied, "Afraid someone might return, someone like me?" Before Jace could speak, a loud blast echoed above them. Something had cut through the roof. A black cylinder dropped through the hole, landing hard on the floor. It hissed, then cracked open. Gas poured out. Jace pulled his shirt over his mouth and backed away. "They're flushing us out." The girl covered her face with her sleeve and grabbed a metal rod from the floor. She jammed it into the energy cell. Twisted hard, the wall exploded. Heat and light roared out in every direction. The Guardian shielded them with its broken body as chunks of rock flew past. When the dust cleared, a hole yawned open in the floor. Deep and dark and endless. The girl didn't wait. She jumped first. Jace cursed and followed. They fell for what felt like forever, air rushing around them, but the tunnel curved, slowed them, caught them in a net of old wires and foam. They landed. Hard in a lower chamber filled with shadows and forgotten machines. Everything down here was dead, except for the humming sound. The girl stood slowly, her knees shaking. "It's still running," she whispered. "What is?" Jace asked. She didn't answer right away. She walked to the center of the chamber, where a single metal sphere floated in the air, slowly spinning. It gave off a soft light and a strange hum that seemed to echo inside Jace's bones. The girl reached out to it. "This was built before my people learned to lie," she said. "It holds memories. Truth's proof that everything we are was stolen." Jace took a step back. "You want to expose them?" "Yes," she said, "and I want your help." Jace stared at the glowing sphere, then at her. "Why me?" "Because," she said, "you don't have a past here. No one expects you to carry this weight, but you already are." He didn't know what to say to that. The ground shook again, this time harder. Dust fell from above as a loud screech echoed through the tunnel they'd just escaped from. Something was descending, and it was angry. Jace looked at her. "Can that thing fight?" She shook her head. "No, but if we can protect it long enough, it can broadcast what's inside to every system near this planet." A truth bomb. Jace grinned slightly. "Well, hell," he said. "Let's show them what happens when you push a human too far," and he raised his blaster. Standing in front of the orb, as the sound of the enemy came closer, the chamber pulsed with light as the orb began to spin faster. A faint hum grew louder, like a heartbeat made of metal. Jace stood in front of it, his blaster aimed at the entrance. The girl stood beside him, her hands trembling. Not from fear, but from something building inside her. The enemy was coming fast now. Boots hit the tunnel floor like thunder. Heavy, sharp, organized. Then came the sound of weapons charging. Cold energy screams slicing through the silence. Jace took a deep breath and whispered, "We're outnumbered." "I know," she said. "And outgunned?" "Yes." He turned to her. "So how do we win?" She didn't answer with words. Her eyes began to glow, brighter than ever before. And the glow spread through her skin. Her veins shimmered like rivers of light. Her chains may have broken earlier, but something inside her had just snapped. Loose now, she walked forward, past Jace, toward the enemy sounds. Jace grabbed her arm. "What are you doing?" "If they take the orb, the truth dies," she said. "So I won't let them." Her voice sounded different now, deeper, like something ancient was speaking through her. The first enemy soldier burst through the tunnel door, rifle raised. Jace shot first, a clean hit to the chest. The body hit the ground before the others even appeared, but there were too many of them. Dozens, all armored, all silent. Then the girl raised her hand, and the world shook. A blast of invisible force exploded outward from her body, slamming into the soldiers, ripping metal from walls. Cracking the floor beneath her feet, Jace stumbled back from the pressure, his ears ringing. He looked up and saw something he couldn't explain. Energy swirls rising from her arms, like fire, and her feet hovering just an inch off the ground. She was no longer just a girl. She was something more. The enemy tried to regroup, firing stun rounds and scatter beams, but nothing touched her. The blasts bent around her like wind around a mountain. And when she stepped forward again, the whole chamber seemed to breathe with her. Jace could only stare. His blaster hung loose in his hand, forgotten for a moment. "What are you?" he whispered. She turned her head slightly toward him, her eyes like twin stars. "I was made to obey," she said, "then made to be forgotten. But now I remember who I was before all of that." She raised both hands this time and slammed them into the ground. A wave of force ripped through the chamber, knocking the enemy backward into the walls. Their armor cracked, their weapons shattered. Some fled, others crawled, and in the silence that followed, she dropped to her knees. Her glow faded quickly. Her body shook, her breath uneven. Jace rushed to her side and caught her before she collapsed. Her skin was cold, and her eyes were half closed. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved us." She tried to smile, but winced. "Too much power, too fast," she said. "I don't know if I can do that again." "You won't have to," Jace said. "You bought us time." Behind them, the orb hovered higher. It's spinning faster than ever. Symbols appeared in the orangutan alien language, glowing across the room. The transmission had started. Jace stood, holding her close with one arm, and aimed his blaster with the other. "We just have to hold out a little longer." The lights flickered again. More enemies were coming. But now the world would hear the truth, and Jace knew, even if they died here, they wouldn't be forgotten. The air inside the chamber was thick with smoke and silence. The girl lay still in Jace's arms, her skin dim now. Her glow had faded. But her chest still rose and fell slowly, weakly. Above them, the orb floated higher, its light growing brighter. Symbols spiraled through the air, lines of truth being sent across the galaxy. One by one, hidden files opened. Recorded crimes, secret war plans, experiments, betrayals, names, faces. All of it spilled into the stars. Jace looked up, barely able to believe it was working, but the moment didn't last. The tunnel behind them cracked open with a blast of blue light. The final squad had arrived, not just soldiers, but executioners. Bigger, armored in black plates, their eyes glowing red with command protocols. These weren't here to arrest, they were here to erase. Jace stood up slowly, placing the girl behind him. He had only one energy cell left in his blaster. He knew it wouldn't be enough, but he raised the weapon anyway. The lead soldier stepped forward and pointed. "Step away, human. That asset belongs to us." "She's not an asset," Jace said through clenched teeth. "She's a person. She's a mistake," the soldier replied. Jace didn't flinch. "So am I." He fired one shot. A direct hit to the chest of the front soldier, useless. The blast barely left a mark. The soldier raised his arm, ready to return fire, but the floor shook again. The orb pulsed violently, then changed color, going from white to deep gold. The spinning stopped, and it began to hum. The girl stirred behind Jace. Her voice was soft, broken, but still there. "It's unlocking. What is?" Jace asked without turning around. She pushed herself to her knees. "Everything." The truth wasn't just data. It was code. Old code. Deep inside the systems they built their world on. "What happens now?" Jace asked. She looked at him, then past him, toward the executioners. "It wakes them up." The red lights in the enemy soldiers' helmets flickered. A glitch, then another. Then sparks, confusion, stuttering movements. One of them stepped back, lowering his weapon as if unsure why he was holding it at all. Then another dropped to one knee, shaking. The lead soldier screamed. "System failure, memory breach detected, purge." He never finished the command. The orb flashed one last time, and then silence. The soldiers stopped moving. Their weapons fell, one by one. They dropped to the ground, not dead, but empty. Like their programming had been erased. Like their purpose had been stolen back by the truth. Jace stared, not sure what he was seeing. "You rewrote them," he whispered. The girl stood up slowly, swaying. "No," she said. "I reminded them, outside the bunker, everything changed. Ships turned, codes unraveled, lies burned. The empire that built itself on control now shook with questions it couldn't bury anymore." Jace walked to the girl, wrapping an arm around her as she leaned into him. "So what now?" She looked up at him with tired eyes. "Now we run." "Run?" Jace asked. "After all that?" Jay gave a soft, broken laugh. "We started a fire. It won't stop burning just because we're done." He nodded. "Then let's go somewhere they'll never expect." "Where?" she asked. He looked up at the stars. Home? She blinked. Earth. You ever seen a human planet? He asked. She shook her head. You'll like it, Jace said. Plenty of chaos, but we don't erase people. She smiled gently. Not yet. Together, they walked through the chamber, past the quiet machines, past the fallen weapons. And toward a new exit the orb had opened a path carved not with power, but truth, as they disappeared into the tunnel. A single message. Blinked on every major system across the galaxy. They tried to hide her, but she survived, and now so will the truth.